What it is, peeps? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard, here with y'all tonight, doing a quick security guard Q&A from Reddit. Going to answer some questions that I saw, some really good questions that came up, and then I want to also talk about the recent shooting. I think it happened either yesterday or the day before in Philadelphia at a gas station. You guys know that. Well, a lot of you guys know I used to work in Philadelphia as a Pennsylvania State Constable and an armed security guard. So I have a little bit of insider knowledge about that from my own personal experience, as well as I had one of our subscribers reach out to me and say, hey, that's the company that I work for. One of the guys that I work with, he was involved in that situation. So we will definitely hit that up. Tonight, I am drinking on a little bit of bourbon. It's been a while since we've done a bourbon podcast. I'm drinking a glass of Elijah Craig. This is probably a double's worth. So yeah, your boy's feeling pretty good right now. All right, let's get right to it. The first question. Again, this is from the security guard thread on Reddit. You know, a lot of people go on there that work in the industry. They put their questions up. They look for people to chime in and give their opinion. So your boy, Atypical, tonight is going to give his opinion. Hopefully, this helps those people and anybody else who might have some questions about the industry. So it says, client employees suck. So I've got this dilemma. Okay, I guard a small medical building alone. Looks like a medical marijuana maybe. It says our back entrance has a door locked from the outside that allows access from the street. A longtime employee here, one of the client employees, nothing that has anything to do with security, keeps leaving a wedge in the door when they leave for break or whatever. Okay, it makes it very obvious as there's a breach in access, and it makes my job extremely difficult. I can't monitor the door or be on camera all the time, so I have to manually check to make sure that the door is periodically closed and make sure that people aren't wandering into the building. I removed the wedge today, and this time that same employee approached me. They told me not to remove it again and to just leave it as it was. I explained that they were asking me to create a security breach knowingly, which is an immediate grounds for me to get fired, okay? And that this is asking me to endanger everybody that works here for this individual person's convenience. Apparently, I'll be complained about if I continue removing it, which will definitely lead to my potential firing, right? It says, this really put me in a tight spot. I'm literally damned if I do, damned if I don't. What do I do? What a great question. And guys, you know, if you work in the private security industry, so often our situation is damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? It's almost like we're set up to fail. So whoever wrote this, man, if you're listening, if you're watching this, I get where you're coming from. I understand the frustration. And to be 100% honest, this is the type of bullshit that makes people leave the security industry, right? Our companies, they tell us, hey, make sure that you keep the client happy. Make sure that you follow your post orders. Make sure that you do the legal thing, but also make sure that you do the ethical thing, right? And a lot of times, all of these instructions that are coming down for the guards, they're at odds with each other, right? So this guy knows that in order for him to keep the client safe, in order for him to keep the building secure, right? We're not talking about any of the extra shit that people get mad at security guards for doing, where they say it's outside of the scope of our employment. We can all agree that keeping the building secure and keeping the client safe are two of the most important things in private security, right? So right off the bat, there's no question about whether or not those two things are important and within the scope of the work of that security guard. But there's someone that works there, someone with maybe a little bit of seniority, someone with a little bit of pull who's saying, hey, for my own personal benefit, for me to be comfortable, for me to be happy, I want things done this way. And guys, I deal with that on a daily basis. So if you're a security guard, what do you do? Okay, I'm going to give you three options. Young man, I'm assuming this is a young man. It could be anybody, right? I'm going to give you three options. Number one would be to document this situation. You need to make sure that you write down what is going on. Write down the issues that you're coming in contact with in terms of this door and the employee that is making the complaint, right? You have to document that. You have to make sure that you send that to your employer, you send that to your supervisor so that they know that you've addressed this. It is up to your supervisor, it's up to the owner of the company, anyone that's in a position above you to address that. Because your job is to work that site. And if you go against either the manager or the person that's in charge, ultimately that's not going to work out for you. Now, we all know that the second somebody walks in there and they're unauthorized, right? Or the second that something happens, you're also going to be held responsible. That's where the damned if you do, damned if you don't comes into play. So your only option, in my opinion, one of the only things that you can do is document that you have noticed this security breach and send that to the people that are above you. It is up to them to address that. What's the second thing that you can do? Hey, not a problem. Now, if you don't document it and you simply back off from the issue and something happens, it's going to become, mark my words, it is going to become a he said, she said. The second that someone gets harmed, the second that someone gets killed, and the news shows up, they're going to throw your ass right under the bus. Okay? And ultimately, you're going to be held responsible for whatever happens in that store or happens inside that building. The third option, the option that you don't want to do, but if you're not willing to do option A, option B, then option C is you got to either ask to be moved or you have to quit. At the end of the day, the client and the people that work for the client that have any sort of pull, any sort of power, they make the decisions. As security guards, no matter how much we see things on a daily basis, no matter how much we have an understanding of what needs to be done or how things need to be done, we're just guards. It doesn't matter, guys. They don't care and they're not going to listen to you. So in my opinion, your best option is option A. Document it, send it to your supervisor, and make sure that they are made aware of what the issue is, what your concerns are, and you have it in writing to cover your ass if something happens, all right? Question number 2. Let's get to it. This one is not necessarily a question as much as it is a statement. It says, security is just too encompassing of a term. We need new words for the industry. This person goes on to say that the job defined as security, it simply covers way too much. Security can be someone paid to watch a parking lot. Security can be someone proactively patrolling a community. Security can also be a highly trained nuclear facility guard. Many people on this forum talk about the lack of respect for security. Unfortunately, this is true, and it's mostly because of the part-time do-nothing guards, that's what they said, not me, right, that are defined as the many hours of training and specialized assets. Both of these jobs are security, even though the jobs are not similar, and the requirements are vastly different. I think that we need new names for the immensely different types of security jobs. I don't know what the names would be or how they would be defined, but I think it's time for a change. What are your opinions? I would say that we already have this. Like, we tend to think of security, and most people tend to think of security as just like the guy wearing the shirt that's working the front door, opening the door, letting people in, the guy that's sitting at a desk, right? I've said this time and time again. That is a security guard, right? The person that is, checking you in to a government building, that's a security guard. The military police in the Air Force that is at the front of the entrance to the airbase, right? Mostly their job is to try and catch airmen on a DUI, because I used to be in the military, right? They're called security police. Those are security guards. They do everything from entry and control. They do everything to access control to the airfield or the flight line. That's a security guard. They are armed security. Guys, the Secret Service, that is the president's armed security response detail. Everything from your lowest level to your highest level, that is security. What is a prison guard? A prison guard is a security guard for the inmates, right? To make sure to practice care, custody, and control. That is a security guard. So it's not that we need more terms. We don't need any more terms for private security any more than we need more gun laws. There's already a name for executive protection, armed security, unarmed security, parking lot patrol, Secret Service, right? Security forces, all of that stuff. There's already names for it. We don't need more names for it. What we need is to highlight the different levels of security within society. That is something that we need to be doing. It's not about having everyone think about private security with a very narrow viewpoint and a very narrow way of seeing everything that we do, right? It's about opening up people's understanding of what we do and what we bring to the table as an industry. But the only way that happens, is that we within the industry have to start talking about this shit. Guys, why the fuck do you think I started this YouTube channel? Because I'm not going to have a lot of do nothing guards, as this person calls them, right? I'm not going to have a lot of do nothing guards represent me and what I do. I am so much more than a person that just watches a front door. I am so much more than just a person that patrols a parking lot. I'm so much more than just a guard. I'm a security officer. Why do I say that? Because of my approach, because of my ability to articulate what I do, my ability to write a decent report, my ability to de-escalate situations, to respond to situations of heightened sensitivity or urgency, to be able to handle situations that need to have a hands-on approach versus a de-escalative approach. All of that. Right? I'm educated, I'm trained, and I'm capable. But it's up to us within the industry to make sure that people know about all of the expansive options within what we do and what we're able to provide. But we have to be the ones who champion that. No one's going to come along and say, hey, look at all of these guys. That's security. When you see the people walking behind Justin Bieber or the people walking behind, I don't know, Selena Gomez or whoever's famous in today's day and age, highlight that. Highlight that to your kids. Highlight that to your spouse. Yeah, those bodyguards, that's security. Yeah, Secret Service, that's security. Right? That's what your dad does. Those people that are surrounding the super popular Caitlin Clark and female basketball players as they're walking onto the court to get the highest rating in the nation ever for a women's basketball game, that's security. Point to your kids, tell them that's what daddy does, right? Start changing the narrative around what we do in our industry, and you won't need to have other names. The next question says, let's see here, somewhat of a rant, little bit of a vent. This person says, how do you guys as security guards deal with sites or co-workers who are just plain old dumb? They know they're supposed to do something like relieve a person every certain number of hours or rotate to a specific post. For example, Bob starts at the desk from 3 to 5 p.m. Then another person comes in to relieve that person at the desk at 7. That person who was at the desk takes their break. Then they come to relieve the person at 8 o'clock for their break. Sometimes I find myself at the desk until the third shift at 11 o'clock, regardless of whether I start at the desk or not. And we just got this new officer who seems to leave every night at 10 p.m., almost because it's like he thinks he's a supervisor or something, right? I'm not going to read this long, drawn-out rant. What this guy is talking about is when you're working a site and you're working with another officer, and the people that you're working with, they don't respect the schedule. Now, for one of the locations where I work, we do almost like a 2-hour rotation. We have 3 doors that we cover. We have one specific officer that is working an exit door, one specific officer who is working an entrance, and then one officer who's roving. This is a 2-hour rotation. So on the 2-hour mark, the officer that is roving will go and relieve the officer at the exit door. When that officer comes back to the exit door, the roving officer will go on his break. And then after that 15-minute break, we'll go and relieve the officer at the entrance door. And you pretty much do this for either the 8-hour shift, 12-hour shift, or 16-hour shift, right? So the question that this person is asking, and I can already see where he's going. How do you handle situations when one of the officers is not sticking to that rotation? And for us, it's really difficult because look, everybody that's working at our location, for the most part, we're all on the same page. We don't have a rank system. We don't have a system of authority. Like we're all officers. We're all in the same level, the same rank. So how does Officer A tell Officer B, hey, you got to get your shit together? You would think that the first thing that you would do is talk to that officer, right? Have a word with that officer and say, hey, look, this is the situation. This is what I'm noticing. Is there anything that maybe we're not understanding, that we're not on the same page about? But sometimes when you do that, that can create a little bit of static. So a lot of times officers think, I know what I'll do. I'll go to my supervisor. Ah, ah. I don't suggest that. You don't want to bring management into the officer situation too early, because when they come in and they have to deal with that, in my opinion, in my experience, they start sniffing. And you don't want management to start sniffing around. You have to be very, very careful when you're working as a cog in a system or a cog in a wheel, because every complaint that you make, especially in today's day and age, with everything that's going on with, harassment, with bullying, with, anything and everything that you can think about that has become a major issue in terms of like news coverage or anything. Corporations are mandated to investigate any sort of complaint. So if you make a complaint about an employee, if you make a complaint about a coworker rather, it's going to lead to an investigation. And a lot of times those things turn up other shit that don't need to be brought to light. Not saying anything nefarious, but I mean, let's be 100% honest, right? Like most sites, you're not supposed to be on your phone. Are most officers on their phone? Yes. Most sites, you're not supposed to be fraternizing with the client. Do most people fraternize with the client? Yes. Right? Anything and everything, any small aspect of what you're doing, what you're supposed to do, it comes under scrutiny. And a lot of people, they don't understand that just because you're having a problem with Steve and you go and make that complaint, when that investigation opens up and they start sniffing around, it's not just Steve that gets his nuts cut off, it's also you, because they find out other shit that's happening as well. So, my opinion is to try and make that conversation as cordial as possible. The first time that you work with a new officer, the first time you work with a new partner, if you have been at that location for a long time, if you've been working there for a while, if you have any sense of not necessarily authority, but just time invested in that location, the immediate first moment that you meet that new officer, give them the lay of the land. Hey, nice to meet you. My name is so-and-so. Just want to give you a heads up. This is how we do things. Blah, 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 blah. Start hammering it out right then and there. Because if you don't and you wait, the second that something comes up and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 hours in, 5 days in, 2 weeks in, now when you approach this person, he is going to, I'm just going to say he, because generally in my situation, it's a guy. Now when you approach that person, he's going to be on some, oh, you think you're running shit type vibe. So I would be extremely respectful, extremely cordial, extremely friendly, but make all of the things that you guys do at that site known up front. It's really hard to come back on the back end. If you haven't done that and there's still issues on the back end, you have to approach it with a lot of tact, a lot of humility, and you have to be as cordial as possible. Do not come at people the wrong way, because when you do that, it's going to create problems. It's going to create friction. Worst case scenario, if you still can't agree on things, you can't get people on the same page, you have to go to your supervisor. But just know, when you do that, you don't have any control over how that system works out. You could end up getting moved. They could end up getting moved. All of you could end up getting moved. There could be a lot of problems, okay? So just be aware, all right? I think I got 2 more. The next one, very, very interesting. This person says, can you believe it? I was fired for taking a tip. I was just fired today because a customer gave me a $40 tip. No joke. That's the exact reason why I was fired. Apparently, there's a rule as a security guard against taking tips. I was never informed of this. I never knew of this rule, and no one at any point in my training told me anything about this. Whoo! I get it. It happens. Here is the reason why most companies don't want you taking tips. Number one, even though you're not a law enforcement officer, if you're working in the capacity of a security guard, you are in a position to have access to things like entry control, exit control. Imagine if you're working at a bank, you have information in terms of, I don't know, money drop off, money pickup, anything, right? There is an ethical reason behind not taking a tip from a customer, especially in a retail environment. How does that look to your client? How does that look to your company? Excuse me, I had to burp here. Sorry. How does that look to the people that are cutting your check? There's so many potential areas of impropriety that could come up from you taking a tip. Yeah, it's a $40 tip today. What if it's a $100 tip? What if it's a $1,000 tip, right? What are you willing to let slide, willing to let go, willing to let happen because someone is paying you under the table? It's unethical. Now, I also think it's unethical for your company to not have told you this. But I tell you guys time and time again, a lot of security companies are not going to tell you things. They're not going to train you on things. They're not going to inform you of things, but you are still going to be held responsible to all of them. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I can't stress this to you guys enough. This is one of those industries where more than any other potential industry, you are going to be held to a certain standard that you've never heard of, that you've never thought about, that you've never been informed of. And when they come down on you for whatever it is that you've done, the thing that they're going to say to you is that you should have known better. This is common sense. And we all know that common sense is not common. But if you're going to work in this industry, you have to accept that as a reality. Should your company have told you that they have a no tip policy in place? Now, me as somebody who's approaching 50, I can see that, I can understand that, and I would know that going in that I shouldn't take a tip. If you're 20, 21 years old working in security, you don't know that you can't take a tip. You don't know that. You know now, right? And because we're talking about it, maybe a number of people who wouldn't have known know that now. But this is the nature of the beast, guys. This is the nature of the beast. There's so many ethical reasons around why you should not be taking a tip while you're working your job as a security guard, right? And I agree with you. You got hung out to dry that they didn't know anything about it. I will tell you guys that I had a personal situation that was very similar. I had a situation here in Portland where someone assaulted me, all right, while on the course of my duty. So I had someone reach out to me and they said, hey, we are with the city of Portland and we have this new program. This program is where we are looking to do restitution on behalf of the offending party. So this person has assaulted you. You have every right to go to court. You have every right to prosecute this person. But, here in Portland, we really don't want to prosecute people. We don't want to see homeless people go to jail. So we have this new program where we would like to offer restitution. How would you feel if we were to give you $300? We'll give you $300 and all you have to do is just say you don't want to prosecute. Now, for me personally, I don't want to go to court, spend all day in court. I don't want to have to go and be involved in that. And I also know that 9 times out of 10, our district attorney is not going to, if this person is found guilty, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to put him in jail. They're not going to force them into treatment. They're going to give him a little, slap on the wrist and they're going to let him go, right? Yeah. So in that situation, I'm like, look, for me, I'd rather take the $350, go buy another used snub nose revolver. You know what I mean? Call it good. So just like this guy, no one had ever told me, hey, If someone reaches out to you and offers you a restorative a justice restitution payment for something that happens to you on work, don't take that payment. No one ever told me that because it had literally never happened before. It was a new program that they had just started. But when it came out that I was going down this route, oh, hell no, right? And I didn't even think about it. Like looking back, having a little bit of distance on it, yeah, the contract, the company that owns the contract does not want their officers taking any sort of payment to not prosecute people that are doing something on their property. If a person commits a crime against that contract holder, right? That contract holder wants those people prosecuted. It doesn't matter if the district attorney chooses to let them go or the district attorney gives them a light sentence. That's all going to be worked out down the line between people with way more power, way more authority, way more influence than just the individual officer. But what they don't want is for officers to feel like, hey, maybe I can get involved in something. Maybe I can ramp this thing up a little bit. And then you never know. Maybe the restorative justice fairy comes around and gives me a couple extra dollars. That's not an ethical way of doing things, right? I myself almost got caught up in that exact same situation. Had I gone down that path, I could have easily had gotten terminated, and they would have had every justification and every right to do so, despite the fact that that was not something that was ever brought up to me, right? So working in security, if you're ever in situations where something happens, one of the things that I have always gotten frustrated with, right? You have to think about this as a person who has a channel dedicated to training, dedicated to educating, dedicated to bringing us together as a group, right? As someone who makes every effort to uplift our industry, when I personally am involved in situations where I get called to the carpet, where I get questioned, where my reasoning or my thought process gets called into the light, I get very offended and very upset. Because in a very real way, I feel like I'm doing a good job and being a good officer, but that doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that I don't also mess things up, right? So when I got called out in that situation, I was very frustrated about it. But having a little bit of distance, a little bit of time, a little bit of space, I look back and I completely understand, where that was coming from. All right. The last question was, would you ever consider getting a revolver, right? Getting a revolver for duty. And would you ever get a permit for that to actually carry that? Now, I am probably the biggest wheel gun fan on this platform in terms of security, right? I absolutely love revolvers. I went shooting my revolver today. I carry a revolver for my EDC. I would carry a revolver as a backup gun if I had one, or maybe if I do have one. I would never tell you guys, right? But for duty, absolutely not. One of the things that I worked today when I was at the range was speed loading, right? So I have a speed loader. I got this really cool speed loader holster. You guys can see it on my community page. And I wanted to work with it today. I wanted to see if I was able to retrieve that speed loader, work it a little bit faster, see what my time was on that. As awesome as a revolver is, as cool, as sexy, as still relevant as they are, I do not, and I would never recommend those over a semi-automatic for duty. We just live in a society, we live in a time where the bad guy, the nefarious people have way too much firepower. If anything, we should be pushing to have more ammunition, to have higher caliber weapons, to have access to much greater weapon systems based on what we're dealing with, which is a hell of a segue to go right into the Philadelphia gas station shooting. Right now, my man PBE, I don't know if he's still on here. I just saw him kind of pop in. If you're still here, PBE, just put something down in the comments. He works for a security firm that either the officer that was involved in the shooting works for, or he is associated with some of the guys who were in that same kind of conglomerate of people. I used to live in Philadelphia for 8 years. I was a certified Pennsylvania State Constable, which is very similar to a sheriff's deputy, except you work in a municipal capacity. I also was a 235 agent. People see the patches on a lot of these security guards that are working in Pennsylvania, and they say certified state agent. That is a certified Act 235 agent. That is a legitimate title. People that shit on that title, go fuck yourself. The people that work in Philadelphia in a security capacity, most of you who are in whatever podunk town you're in, whatever goofball city you work in, whatever cream puff location you're posted up in, don't ever fix your mouth to talk down on the guards that work in Philadelphia. For those of you who don't know, I almost lost my life on the 4th of July in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is no joke, and I live in Portland. I can literally walk out my door right now, and a motherfucker with a machete will be somewhere either in my bushes or outside my gate, right? It's like that here, and it is 10 times worse in Philadelphia. We have to, as an industry, okay, I'm not going to go on this rant. I'm going to keep this super short. We have to, as an industry, start showing respect to each other. And we have to start showing respect to the guys who are working for sometimes minimum wage in these areas that are absolutely no joke. I have to deal with knives and machetes and swords and all kinds of like weird concoctions of weapons. The people that are in Philly, they're dealing with gangbangers with guns. There's no knives coming out in Philly. All right? So before we even go into this conversation about what happened, we need to start showing some respect to the people that are in Pennsylvania, because I've been there, I've lived it, I've worked it. And for those who haven't, like, you are out of your mind giving those people a hard time. To the situation, from what I heard, the guy that was shot had a like an SUV with some sort of like a smoker attached to it. I don't know if this guy was trying to sell food out of this smoker in the parking lot, somewhere near the parking lot. But apparently the situation is that he had already been told that he could not park this SUV with this smoker because of the length and the width that this thing was. It was taking up spots. People couldn't get into the gas station. They couldn't maneuver around the gas station. They couldn't get to the gas pumps, so on and so forth. So this guy had been told multiple times that he was not supposed to do this, allegedly, right? So had come in earlier that morning, had a similar conversation, had gotten into it with the security guard. Comes back that evening, and as soon as he comes in, the security guard sees him. He's not for the bullshit, and he tells the guy, hey, get out of here. You're not supposed to be here. When he puts his hands up and touches this guy, now there is a immediate interaction where the guy pulls his firearm. He doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to be touched. He doesn't want to be told what to do. He's on some, you're not going to tell me what to do type shit, and pulls his firearm, and the security guard pulls his firearm. Now, from there, every video that I have seen, and I have requested from my guy that is a subscriber to send me the video, from every video that I've seen, they have cut it at that moment. So I don't see what happens once the subject draws his firearm. Every video stops. You can hear an exchange of words and then a flurry of bullets. So the security guard is shot once that I know of, maybe 2 or 3 times in the leg, and the subject is shot multiple times throughout his chest and his head. Subject dies. Security guard is in the hospital recovering. That's the situation. What's the takeaway? Takeaway number 1, like I've said, all of these situations are so dangerous depending on where you're working. But again, this goes back to an earlier conversation and an ongoing conversation. Let's just talk about it, right? The conversation of, why are you wearing that gear at that location? You're just working at a gas station. Why do you need a bulletproof vest? Why do you need multiple magazines? Why do you need a taser? Why do you need this? Why do you need that? All of the people that have a problem with guys wearing gear, all of you that have a problem with guys carrying extra magazines, I'm going to continue to say it every single time. Go fuck yourself. Because at the end of the day, that officer That security guard who found himself looking down the barrel of looked like a Glock with an extended magazine, it's his life. It's his life. It's real easy for y'all to get on some message board, to get on YouTube, to caca and kiki and laugh and make fun of people, but you're not the ones taking those jobs. You're not the ones doing it. And you don't have the balls to do it. I'm going to start calling it like it is. You don't have the balls to work in a gas station in Philadelphia and deal with the kind of people that come in there. But you're going to get on a platform and you're going to talk shit about what those guys are wearing. You're going to talk shit about what they're carrying. How dare you? The same place where this officer finds himself in a gun battle in a convenience store is the same exact place where the two officers found themselves getting stabbed in the neck at the Macy's department store back in December. Like, I don't know what reality you guys are living in. What reality are you living in? Where you think that what we do is some sort of joke. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you will find more security guards getting killed, more security guards getting assaulted than you will police officers. And you will find half of the news coverage because they don't take seriously what we do. They don't think that it matters. They think that it's a fucking joke. And part of the reason for that is because the people that are in this industry act the same way. We need to be looking at the security industry the same way that we look at our family. I have all kinds of problems with people in my family. Okay? I have all kinds of issues with people in my family. Let somebody else say something about my family and see what happens. And you're not going to have me coming on this platform down talking my family. And that's how it needs to be with our industry. The reason why we make the money that we make, the reason why we get the disrespect that we get, the reason why there's lack of laws passed in our favor, the reason why there's no training that is given to us is because people look at us with a certain type of view. And then we in the security industry, from the officer standpoint, all the way up to anybody that they put on television to stand as our representative in the news, we're the ones always talking down on each other. The most toxic interactions that I've had since I've started this YouTube channel has been from other security guards. The most disrespectful shit that I've heard said about me has come from other security guards. And you'll be hard pressed to find anyone in this industry that has done what I have done in terms of uplifting this community. I've been on local news. I've been on national news. I've been on multiple platforms. I've interviewed Navy SEALs. I've interviewed people involved in sex trafficking recovery. I'm out there. I started a clothing line, right? I'm out there. And I do everything that I can to uplift this industry. Anytime that you see my name anywhere in the news, it says private security officer, armed security guard, security trainer. But until you guys as a collective start doing that same thing, this kind of shit is going to continue to happen. People are going to continue to press up on us. They're going to continue to threaten us. They're going to continue to try and assault us. They're going to continue to talk to us any kind of way because we do the exact same thing to each other. We have to be the people that change this industry. And if you ain't ever worked in an environment like that, don't talk down on it. The guys who are working in gas stations, the guys who are working in convenience stores, the guys who are working in shopping malls, the guys who are working in grocery stores, you need to be showing respect to them. If you're working as a security guard in any capacity, you need to be the ones who are setting the standard in how we view those people. It's up to us. I didn't want to get into a rant, but I went on a rant. Sometimes the rant just comes out. There's always a rant in there somewhere, right? But it has to be said. Now, if you're working in these environments, you know, I usually take the side of the ultimate de-escalator. But in that video, guys, like the interaction between security guard and the subject, it's like a second and a half before the guy pulls his gun out. And when I say the guy, I mean the subject. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you're in that situation, guys, look, I am as big of an advocate for conversation, de-escalation, excuse me, removing yourself from the situation. Let me say this. When it's go time, it's go time. When it's time to send it, it's time to send it. In that situation, short of seeing anything else, just where they're showing the video and then cutting the video, it's time to send it. It is what it is, right? In those instances, in those situations, like, you can't hesitate. I would hate to be the one to put you in a position where you feel like that's the time to try and de-escalate. That guy pulled a gun out of his pants. He was ready to go. Somebody gave me a $2 super chat. Thank you. I wonder, hang on, I'm gonna see if I can see who that was. No, if I touch it, it doesn't do anything. All right, let me check these comments real quick. Wife just walked in. I guess we're having pizza tonight. Let me see. Somebody says, hello, how are you? I'm doing great. The Divine says, hey, bro, I have a question. If you have a question, all you got to do is ask on here, okay? Phoenixes, how's everybody's doing? Stop rambling. There was the $2. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. That came from the Divine. Thank you. I appreciate that, okay? Phoenix from Arizona says, I work event security with Pride Group in Phoenix, Arizona, and Tucson, Mesa, Scottsdale. We also work hotel security and construction security. Anyone else work in security in the Phoenix area? I spent a week in Phoenix back in 2021 with Sheepdog Response. I loved Phoenix, man. Phoenix was so nice. It was so hot, though. It was so hot. It was crazy. Drunken Family says, good day from Australia, mate. Hey. Somebody says, gate guard for airlines flight field was overrun in the States. Why are guards so poorly trained? Guards are poorly trained on purpose. This was from Miso. Miso says, gate guard for airlines flight field was overrun in the States. Why are guards so poorly trained? You're fine to come in. Guards are poorly trained on purpose. Security companies do not want to put anything in writing or give any training, because if you are to do something and utilize that training or be able to point to it, then they are liable. Security companies, in and of itself, what they want to do is charge the absolute most per billable hour, pay the officer the absolute least amount that they are willing to take, and then be able to get a huge windfall in terms of profit and hope that nothing ever happens. And if something happens, they can point to whatever it is that you did as your incompetence. It's set up like that for a reason, guys, so that the company can make a lot of money and that you can be the scapegoat. Do not think for any amount of time that working in the security industry is any different than what I just told you. That's why. That's why they're so poorly trained. Because any sort of training, any sort of putting anything in writing, any sort of directing you to do something, that company is now tied to that. And if that leads to a lawsuit, if that leads to an issue, that is going to be problematic for that company. So they would rather just sit you out there and say, hey, you're working at an at-will basis, and if you do anything crazy, we're going to cut you and say it was your fault. My cat and dog are over here wrestling. Someone says, nice shirt. I do have a nice shirt. Hey, this is the Bones and Brew Choose Wiley Dealer's Choice shirt. I have some really dope shirts on my website, guys. bonesandbrewsecuritygear.com. If you're a security guard, support the movement. Order a shirt, right? The whole point behind the dealer's choice line of shirts is because people always tell me, I'm going to come back at 11 o'clock or I'm going to come back at 10 o'clock and I'm going to beat your ass. And I tell people, listen, I have no control over what you choose to do, but I have every bit of control over how I choose to respond. It's dealer's choice. So choose wisely what you decide to do with that information. That's what the shirt's about. Okay? Kaylin Williams says, bro, I mean, what if it's in the birthday cards? PBE says, what's up? Someone says, for the people that just came in, what are you rambling about? I'm rambling about your mama. Okay? You missed all the good stuff. No, Alexander, I didn't see your question. Hang on. Nope, you didn't answer any question. All right. Thank you for a response and respect. What kind of pizza are you eating tonight? What'd you get me?
You got
Boy, let me hang on a second. Stop. Look how fine my wife is.
No.
Woo! Boy, I'm about to eat this pizza.
That is not the tea I thought you were gonna say.
I'm about to eat this pizza. I'm about to drink this whiskey, and it's gonna be on. I'm just letting you know it's about to happen. It's going down tonight.
You don't get pizza for dinner.
What'd you get?
El Jefe's on the way.
Why?
We're just not ordering DoorDash anymore.
What happened? What'd you get?
Well, I don't know what they sent, but it's not our pizza. There's a cheesy bread in here that's ours, but they forgot a whole pizza, and then whatever this pizza they gave us is not ours. And then the poor guy delivering it didn't speak a lick of English, so he tried to translate something on the phone, and I was like, I didn't quite know what it said, and I felt bad because I think he was scared that I was about to, like, fucking rate him terribly, but I'm like,
she said rate him.
Yeah, with a T, because that's how they get jobs, right? And so I just said, you're fine, and he was like...
So you ordered El Jefe anyway?
Yes, you get El Jefe.
I really wanted El Jefe to begin with.
So it's on the way.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Well, I guess I'm not having pizza, but you know what? Since you fucked up my pizza order, take it out your ass, lady.
You wish.
All right. Phoenix from Arizona says, to all security guards, thanks for your service, and everyone be safe.
Yep.
I'm okay. So someone says, what do you look for in a man? I hope they're asking you and not me. But let's assume. What do I look for in a man? Yeah.
That they're asking you.
Hey, we'll both give you an answer. All right, you give your answer first. What do you look for in a man? She's already got one, so it is what it is.
Right, like, so what am I currently looking for in a man, or what was I looking for in a man?
What were you looking for in a man?
Oh, my God. I think the biggest thing I was looking for is someone who would just let me be myself. And that sounds probably stupid, but I came out of a relationship, technically two, in a way where I felt like someone was always kind of trying to suppress me. I grew up in Midtown, same with you. I mean, you grew up in Arkansas, right? When you grow up in a certain demographic, so literally micro town, middle America, graduated with 23 other people, when you want to cut your hair a certain way or get a facial piercing or a tattoo, and those are just small things, make clothes or make bags or do leather work, like people, you just came in like a fucking hurricane and let me be myself. But
that's what I do. More
than that, this is so cliche, but you are a very strong, I don't want to say leader, but you are a very strong leader. I tell you all the time, and you're not going to like this, but I'm going to tell your people, like, you give off real good daddy vibes, and I like that, and I'm a reader, so people know that, but it's like, you're very manly and masculine, but you're also a caretaker, and you are just a very awesome guy. Like, that's a very big compliment.
Gas me up. Let's go. Gas me up.
I will. Your watchers are going to be like,
oh, yeah. Alejandro, he just commented yesterday. He said, I know. Alejandro yesterday was like, he goes, your wife sounds like Sandra Bullock. I said, don't tell her that.
You're the third person in my life.
I said, don't tell. Oh, my God. I'm like, don't gas her up with that bullshit.
I don't hear it because I only hear myself, but you're the third person who's told me that in my life, so.
Don't gas her up, Alejandro.
I'm over here here gassing you up. What are you talking about?
He gassing you up. We're both gassed up.
You know what? I'm about to switch to Team Alejandro here.
Don't tell him that. Don't gas him up. Now we got a 3-way gas up. It's too much gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do I look for in a guy? I don't know. Big dick. I gave up guys a long time ago.
Unfortunately for me.
Shut up. All right, y'all be good. Be safe.